remind us then about this seat and what your political antenna is picking up? A healthy majority, of course, for Labour at the general election there.
Yeah, that's right. Look, we're in Runcorn and Helsby. There's a by-election here after the former MP was caught punching someone. He stood down, and now we have a by-election in this Labour seat. Now, it's in the northwest. It's a Labour stronghold, you would have thought, the 49th safest seat, majority of 15,000 or so, and Labour polled 53% here in the general election against 18% for Reform. But Reform are coming for them, and it could be that there is a small minor earthquake tonight should Nigel Farage take this seat. I interviewed him yesterday. He told me he was optimistic about Runcorn. I've called my sources tonight, both sides saying it is simply at the moment too close to call. The Reform sources saying too close to call. They're going to get a better sense in the next couple of hours. On the Labour side, saying that it's going to be tight, but also saying, making a point that Nigel Farage's Reform were in pole position going into this by-election. There have been a couple of polls here, not massive samples, but that Reform have been ahead. So I think the mood music, certainly when I've called around, is a bit more nervous optimism for Reform, a bit of nerves for Labour. But as I said, Anna, tonight it is simply too close to call. I think a lot will depend on whether Labour have been able to turn out their vote, and have Reform critically been able to get people to come to the polls who are angry at politics, angry maybe with the government, but not minded to vote. So I think a lot will depend on that. Too close to call, but Nigel Farage was here campaigning today.
And elsewhere, Beth, a slew of local councils, county unitary, parish councils, plus some mayors. What should we be looking out for?
That's right, Anna. There is this by-election, and of course it's going to be a big moment tomorrow, but there's also 1,600 council seats up for grabs across the country, over 1,600, 23 councils, 18 of them Conservative controlled, and it's going to be a pretty poor night for them indeed. They're braced for really massive losses. There are also 6 mayoralties. Now, Nigel Farage told me yesterday he thinks he could win 2 or 3. They're positive about Lincolnshire. He thinks he's certainly going to win Hull as well, and maybe one other. So that's the mayoralties. As for the state of the parties, as I was saying, it's going to be a really difficult night for Kemi Badenoch. She told me this week how difficult it's going to be, and the Conservatives really braced for a really bad time. And the question is whether even the Liberal Democrats can push the Conservatives into third when it comes to being the parties controlling councils across the country. Can the Lib Dems overtake them to have the second biggest party in terms of control of councils? And then, of course, Reform. Can Nigel Farage turn momentum into the polls, into real power? Can he win a couple of mayoralties? Can they take control of some councils? So this is a massive test, and it's also a more profound thing, I think, Anna, about whether or not we really are moving from a two-party system to a multi-party system, 5 parties, with the Lib Dems, the Greens, the Reform challenging the Conservatives and Labour. I've got some bits and pieces in from the parties just as the polls are closed. This is Reform. They say we've fought a strong campaign. The 2 major parties are more fearful of the results tonight than we are. We've got from Labour, if I can find it. Sorry, let me see what Labour have said. Labour have said these elections are always going to be a challenge, being held largely in areas dominated by the Conservatives. And I think you'll see tomorrow a Prime Minister just trying to get on with the job. So, look, as it stands, all eyes on Reform to see if they can make those big gains. Labour looking at a difficult night. Conservatives, it's going to be really, really, really tough for them. And the Liberal Democrats, could they have a very good night as well? So we're going to go into tomorrow, and it will all be about the rise of the other party, not dissimilar actually from what happened in the general election in 2024 when the 2 main parties got their lowest vote share ever. It seems that trend is continuing.